Tene ta tanda Niden janso la ta certo nangsi mambo yepe none tanda zawa nomdo chuni jisu sumba te rela Tela sachi namba jo yepe nane tanu ngadu kapso tangbo tang nipa nga tang jarne jebar heba tela te hubar nga tang jarne jebar heba tela ta chitang sachi namba jobji yeba te hyotubne ta togung kapso sumba komsom nendebe zuk du som lende pe zo su jung hong ta ti song yo re la ta ti ndo dong ha tang ji ne sung wan ze pa de ta chi tang ge ji tin de yi on de se de se ndi ge no wa da to mo khor we kun zo ge no wa se na de ne kom som lende pe zo yung ma re la de yen do du som lende pe zo jung yung ge yo ma re te yinaya ta tanda te mepa re te yinaya ta ndoda jide tamchi gana ne sunwa te ta kaan kogi yore se na tene kam dewar hibi nimbo te la kogi yore
The Ocean of Certainty has many different sections to it, and among all of these different sections where we came to this morning was the discussion of the pure form of the Dharma nature. And so that had 10 sections, and of these 10 sections we discussed the first and second sections, and these are teaching this in combination with the teachings from the Tantras. And the second of these had 18 subdivisions, and then we've completed those. Now we have come to the third section, which is about the form that transcends the three realms and the three times. So the form that transcends the three realms and the three times. So what is that we mean by that? Well, in terms of what is said in the sutras and in the tantras, there are all the appearances of this world, all the appearances of this life, the common appearances of samsara, as you could say. And none of these appearances transcend the three realms being the form realm, formless realm, and desire realm. So we are all in the desire realm. The form and the formless realms are realms for particular types of gods. So none of these forms can, there is nothing that can in this world that can transcend the three realms, nor is there any form that can transcend the three times. But although there is not any form that transcends the three realms or the three times, but so what is it meant in the sutra when we talk about the form that does transcend the three realms and the three times? What is meant here, what we should understand this to mean, is the Buddha nature, the element of Buddha nature that is present within all of us.
Tene ta te tabu ge tanda sanji ji himbo te yeba mahina yeba tene Rangtong kona gamna toni jangba gamna tene sanji to sonji ji kompong togu mare sonrela tene toni jongba jing meba gamna tene ti ge ponto ge te tam zo to ge mare la tene te yang tene tanda sanji jambal yongji ndoye none tembala pumbo nomji tomba no chuhin ji himbo me tene pumbo nomji tomba tela tene chuhin dan dawa himbo hiro yo marela tene tanda ngaranso ge tenda kari sangku ge resena nomba kanjin chu de betoni teataran jormai sunde tene namba kanjin chu dong tempa te tene tela tene tanda zopu sonji jamden deji top jo menji ba yela soba top jo menji ba ye mandi be chu chu ji la soba ko song tu ji den tan jin jong du ru tomba ni te la nong kin chu din ji tomba chu tomba re de te nong kin chu din ji tomba jen char du ru yin be chen na nong kin chu din ji tomba sung ge yo la toni la te tar dun ji ro ma yin te yen do tene tombe ngupu tomba ni pumbo number jeba mai tene ta tela pumbo number jeba te chamji tene tartu kunde to mare so tene ti ge toni kyomba gonna ti ge sanji ji kompo to mare so yin sa.
And so if we don't know about the essence of the Buddha nature that is, if we don't know about the essence of the Buddha and we only meditate upon the self-empty, if we only meditate upon emptiness, then we won't be able to attain Buddhahood, it says. If we only meditate upon emptiness and meditate upon nothings, we won't really be able to develop all the qualities of abandonment and all the qualities of realization. We won't be able to perfect them. And so this is, as the Buddha told Manjushri in a sutra. He said that the emptinesses that analyzes forms have as little essence as a banana tree. So a banana tree is a common example in Buddhist texts. A banana tree has no real center to it, and so there's nothing in the middle of it. So the emptiness of analyzing the aggregates has no essence like a banana tree. And so what it is saying is that if we just think of the aggregates as being empty, then it is like a banana tree. And so, so what do we need to do? We need to have the emptiness that has the best of all we need the emptiness that has the best of all aspects, and that is that emptiness is not like that. So that emptiness has an essence. And so when we say the emptiness that has the best of all aspects, or the supreme of all aspects, I'm sorry, I can't remember how Jeffrey Hopkins translates that term. What this means is this is the wisdom that is able to manifest as all the qualities of the Buddha. It is able to manifest as the 10 powers, as the 4 fearlessnesses and the 18 unshared qualities. And so it is this emptiness where everything has the potential to arise. And so this is not just pure, regular emptiness, or not just mere emptiness, but it is the emptiness with the best of all aspects that can arise as anything. And so this is not like the emptiness, and so like just mere emptiness. And so he also goes on to say the emptiness of things' emptiness is not.
Pumbo number jepa men tati tomba ni nguni ge namkin chudin je tomba ni de pumbo number jepa ti tomba ni pumbo madrupa zom hig tomba ni ti mare.
Okay. And so the emptiness of things is not the real analysis of the emptiness of objects. It's not the real ultimate analysis of objects, because the real nature of everything is not just mere blank emptiness, but it is the nature of the emptiness endowed with all aspects that can appear as anything. And so here this is telling us that if we just meditate upon mere emptiness, then we will not be able to attain the state of Buddhahood.
Tene ta te namji ta sachi thangbo ta nipa ta sumba ta yiba namji yiba nam ta kandi ge dubare se na palcher longu go ne dubare ta kapka la so doje tipe longu dubato kapka la tene tipa chimben dode namji longu dubare la longu dubare se pe kapso ta te yepar dubare te ya long khahi la tene 디 메퍼템바 요아레 송아레 나바티 라 나바 데나라 룽갈 mambo 빵니 이누 땡남베바 숭게 요아레라 디네 롱동 롱게 두게 요아레라 디 롱동 가라와요 요아레 송 다카히게 송나 디네 롱동 가라와 요 파 넘발라 디나 롱동 가라와레 디나 다나 롱동 가라와 요 마레 송네 템베 certo 디네 다디롱 다 kepa ngayi ki song na chu ji yin dang de yin ni tam ji rong ngu dong ba re ru ngu dong ba re ma do dong ba ma yin na de ni dan da ja lu yom se na de ni yom hira ja paru de zhen de ndo yin da dan re ndo yin na ni chu ji yin ni chu ji yin ji dong 대인이 네 대인이 기동 용답한타니 용답한이 진타이 동신 다딘저 강가 통지 동바인 발을 성요하래라 되니데 에 간디시네 대당 가와요래 되니 다 대견도 헤라지 바로도 선바티 되니 한도 디기나는 성은 헤라지 바로도 선바니 헤라지 바로도 선비 동대 되니 제와메바예 성네 드니 넘바 탐지 젬바 바르도 탐지 동바임바 제와메바 임바라 성요레라 다 대답게 드니 롱 망보이바 임베처나 롱 대다동 갈네 드니 단다 단다 오마 옌동바다와데 롱 대다동 갈도고 마르베 성네 다 각바다고 제레라 드니 각바티 레나오레
So in this way, the first, second, third, and fourth teaching are proving that we have Buddha nature. But how is it that they prove that we have Buddha nature? They prove it through they prove it through citing scriptures. Some of these scriptures are from the Secret Mantra Vajrayana. Some of them are from the Mahayana Sutras. But in any case, they are citations from the scripture to prove his point that there is Buddha nature. And so these are scriptures that prove that there is Buddha nature, but there are also a lot of citations that say that there is not. And so there are these citations that say that, at least so think some scholars. And so there are some citations that, so this fifth section, the fifth section says that the dispelling the idea that there are contradictions in these, that there are contradictory citations and showing how, and coming to understand how it is. So dispelling the idea that there are these contradictory citations and teaching how it is. In this section, what it says is that there are what appear to be contradictory citations in the scriptures, contradictory scriptures. And there are some scriptures that prove that say that there's Buddha nature and some that say there is not. And these are contradictory, and that's what some people think. But however, these may be contradictory in appearance, but in terms of their actual meaning, they are not contradictory. And so what the scholars who think there's a contradiction point at are some scriptures that say that the Dharma nature and that thatness are empty of their own nature. And if they were not empty of, if the Dharma nature and the thatness were not empty of their own nature, then it would contradict the scriptures from the mother, the Prajnaparamita Sutras. And because in the Prajnaparamita Sutras it says very clearly that the Dharma nature is empty of the Dharma nature. It says that thatness is empty of thatness. It says that the right extreme is empty of the right extreme. These are all synonyms, by the way. They're all synonyms for ultimate truth. So in this way, it says that all of these are empty. And so why is it said like this? Isn't this a contradiction? So here, even in the sutras on Prajnaparamita, it says that Prajnaparamita itself is empty of Prajnaparamita. And so Prajnaparamita is empty. It has no arising, no stopping. And so in this way, it seems like these are contradictory. And it seems that this is saying that these are empty and have no arising. And so there are many different citations that say this, and these citations all contradict the Shentong view. So say some scholars who are trying to refute the Shentong.
Tene tati len la jitang ke ta ka parba ne ta zo ka tong bo tong ka parba tang ka thamati number song ke nang ne ka parba ke nang ne ka la ngiren je chai bang bo song yo re de yang ka la dong dan je chai song yo ba yin bi cher na tene ta ti ke tong ni jong ba re song ke te dong dan re song tene te chongden yinpe junsen te ka tama libar number tsewege tene mengwa la tene to toge yo re tene ta tiga na gupa kanka chidolo gong gupa kanka chidolo sungwa re se na tene chu ji yen la hienpa tene chu ji yen la zinpa chenpo yeba nam la tin zinpa di hiwe ge chirto tene chu ji yen ki tong yongdan ta ne yongdan ta yi tong sungwa re ma to chu ji yen de tene jeyong mebe tene sarcha yi hiji cha mebe benpo tabu yinpa la sungwa tento sungwa ma re tene chu ji yen de ngo rang yin ki tongpa yinpa la sungwa re samne ta drapan sepa tang tene ta te yendo jasa shambang kenpo chong tene jerdo tene sanji ji yen ding tamchi song yo la sanji ji yen ding song kapsula chuku yen ding de la dralwi yen ding song yo jitang ke yen ding de kande sin jitang ke yen ding del go na yen ding de dembe yen ding de sur ding go gre ma dral ro ya mare la tene ta tanda jasa shambang kenpo ke dralwi yen ding song la dralwi yen ding song de junsin kande re se na ponja nyen mon ba lobru je tma de pa dral ro di tene rang la yepi yentin di tsur ngan dun jor ju yin bi cherna de la dalwi yentin song pa pangja de dal du tene di yentin di sar di ba ma yin ba yentin di rang yin ji yeba de ngan du jor ba yin bi cherna dalwi yentin hi sung bi.
And so what is the response to this? Well, the response is that of the three turnings of the wheel of the Dharma, the first turning of the wheel of the Dharma, the second turning of the wheel of the Dharma, and the third turning of the wheel of the Dharma, the second turning, the middle turning of the wheel of the Dharma, does not all, has some phrases and passages that teach the ultimate truth, but sometimes it also has passages that teach the expedient meaning, the expedient or guiding meaning. And so here, when it is teaching that the Dharma nature, the ultimate truth, is empty of itself, is a mere emptiness, that is the guiding meaning. Well, so what is the reason for teaching that? The reason for teaching that is that we need to rely on the for that reason, we need to rely on the oral instructions from the third turning of the wheel of the Dharma in order to realize the truth. But what is the reason for saying, and what is the purpose in saying that the Dharma nature is empty of the Dharma nature? Well, some people have a lot of attachment and fixation on the Dharma nature. Some people really clasp at it very strongly. In order to pacify such strong grasping at the Dharma nature, it is said that the Dharma nature is empty of the Dharma nature. The right extreme is empty of the right extreme, and the thatness is empty of the thatness. But when we talk about the thatness of the Dharma nature, that does not mean that it is just mere nothingness. It does not say that it does not have a clear aspect of wisdom. That is not what is said. What it is saying is that it is empty of nature. Now, also another problem is another point is that Maitreya when he talks about the qualities of the Buddhas. Maitreya lists all the qualities of the Buddhas, and he says that the qualities of the Dharmakaya, the Dharma body, are what are called qualities of separation. Now, this is kind of funny. Qualities of separation, what could that mean? When we think of qualities, usually we think of you have to have something for it to be a quality. But here, and if it's separated, how can it be a quality if you're separated from it? How does that work? Well, the reason they're called qualities of separation is that what it means is that when we are separated from everything we need to get rid of, when we are separated from everything we need to get rid of at that point, all of the qualities that we have within us naturally become manifest. And so in that way, because of the separation from the things that we need to discard, then the qualities become manifest. This is not like making qualities new. These are not new qualities that we make. Rather, these are naturally inherent qualities that we have within us that become manifest. And so these are the qualities of separation.
Tene ta tejendo jansa chambangam na tanda nam yer jepen seni je loburta ke kamdong ke nam yer mepen seni je lami chuji tong mai song de la ta ti ge gomba de tene nam yer jepa pa tumbur da bo tubju ya pa zuk da bo ta chorwan da bo ta dihi ta pumbo nga ta tene tejendo tendre ju ni la so ba kunzuk ga no yi na number yewa yore number yewa yeba imbecherna de loburtake kamtonke ta loburware de loburwa imbecherna rekam dewarki binimbola kamtela tombare mato teni nomyer mepa teni ta ye trupa ji ton tra rangi jinje yeshi tela teni de ndishore se number yewa mebecherna teni lami churi lana mebechuri la de tomba mare son temper separe.
Amen. Sinichin Lobotaki. Dinamadu. Oh. Namer maybe Sinichin Lobotaki. Kamtonge. Namer maybe Sinichin Namet Nasa. Yeah. Rinpoche is testing me. Here. This is also talked about in another citation from Maitreya that reads, things that have that which has the characteristic of division. The ultimate nature is free of these things. That which does not have the characteristic, that which has the characteristic of no division, the ultimate nature is not free of these. And so when you say that which has the character of separation, this means all the things that we can sort of separate out and distinguish, like we have form, feeling, perceptions, or conceptions, formations, and consciousnesses, and then all the 12, all of the 12 different links of interdependence, and all of these are, these all can be separated and taken apart, and they are what we call adventitious, which means that they aren't really part of the nature. They can be taken apart, and so these are not present in the Buddha nature. The element of Buddha nature is empty of these. However, there are things. There is that which cannot be classified, or that which cannot be divided, and that what is meant here by that is the wisdom that is free of the 4 extremes and the 8 elaborations, and that wisdom is such that you can't say, oh, it's got this part and it's got that part. It's not like that at all, and in that way, it can't be divided. It can't be classified. It can't be divided in any way. And so the Buddha nature is not free of that sort of it has that sort of wisdom in it.
Tene ta teje so juba na ya ta deorhi binimbola depa chena deorhi binimbola moba chena tene penya jachim parte marela tene di penya jachim parte ya uma hijapa umai hijapati loma ludubje loma Aryan Devi sumbarela. Aryan Devi sumbatela. Teni Aryan Devi ki sauna sonam chungu chundala ni me kanga sonam chungu yina teni chuti ki nelu dela tesam sawayo menjurla je tangbu ichi da kana je tama tesam yo je mare la galti me sonam to chungsi yaba je tesam je na 디 태섬지 바정지 운이 이치나 평야 자친부 예바 희망 바레데 태섬정기지나 되는 코로한데 풀본다고 되는 배 풀보세나 제 되는 힘봄에 반다고 저도 그래 다 누밤에 반다고 뽀밤에 반다고 저도 그래 숭알라서 바다 yendo라야 되네 자친부들 성요하려라 대견도 빼자 얘나 땜바 다 이치바 teni tegendu ichi bata, rangi ichi bata, yin tala tenbata, teni nga rangi lola nzimbata, teni peshen chungata, teni lopata, teni nyamsul lembane, sanji mumbole, teni sonchun chudu senje bagla, teni chung penyan tenbaji re.
Lopan Arya Devigi. 페데나 스톰으로 쓰는 중어지기
쓰는 중어에는 태삼이 제가 말해 다 태삼 맞지나 다 쓰는 중어라 쓰는 중시에는 태삼지나 되게 걸어갔대 불보동도
Okay. Following that, in the 10th section, it talks about the benefits of having faith in Buddha nature, the benefits of having interest in Buddha nature. And it said that these have really quite vast benefits. And so this is taught in terms of the teaching from the 400 verses on the Middle Way by a student of Nagarjuna's named Aryadeva. And what Aryadeva says in this is that if someone has very little merit, then they won't have any real doubts about anything. They won't worry about how things are. They won't believe in anything. But if they have just a little bit of merit, then they can begin to have some doubts, and then you can teach them, and then they can develop confidence. And from developing that confidence or belief in the Dharma, then they will be able to see that Dharma has, or that samsara has no. There's a wonderful Tibetan word here. Let's see. I can't think of it, so I'll have to give you the meaning instead of a nice word. So the samsara has no essence. There's no real meat to samsara in any way. And so in that way, when you realize that, you can develop some confidence in it. And then so in that way, that's talking about the merit of just having a little bit, how having a little bit of merit leads you to develop that. But then also there's the merit that comes from reading books, from writing books, from having confidence, from teaching others the Dharma, from memorizing the books, and from reading and practicing the Dharmas. And so this all comes out of the merit of the Buddhas and so in this way, this is how the sentient beings 산적이 수능기 톱기 선진기
중앙기 장축 셈제바 당운의 영스 렘바도 이치바 데라 아드네 벤나 송주주도 셈제바도 수능도 템발인 주그래.
Okay, and so this comes out of the power of the Buddhas generating bodhicitta and accumulating all the merits. So this all comes out from the merit of the Buddhas.
되네 다 대지에서 다 저도 단다 사지 응아봐 다 사지 타마데 대따라 대행도 용답에 따위 senjilo po tamji pongwa ta 따라도 제놈 뽕 yenten동 den na de den yen to na 용 답에다위 senjilo po tamji pang ta ponza tamji pang ponza tamji pong네 되네 다 대라 되네 yenten tamji 제바 용그래 소 사지대 인사래.
Then following this, there is the section describing how realizing that the view of realizing this appropriately dispels all erroneous, all errors and all mistakes. And so here in this, what it teaches is that if we practice in this way, we will be able to get rid of all the faults. We will be able to develop all the qualities, and we will be able to get rid of any erroneous views, any wrong ideas about how things that happen. And then by thus being able to get rid of everything that needs to be gotten rid of and develop, we will be able to develop all of the qualities.
Tene ta teji so ta tanda Longchenpa tene tanda ye lam rebu sung na ne tene lam je njukdo sumba he petan du de dang yi malam japare la ta di malam jap du de la tene de war hi bin bo de jetawa yin to par ho tene de war hi bin bo de to gu re de war hi bin bo de la tene me pata tene yang ta pa ma yin pe lo ta la so pa pang gu re so ne dong wa da bo na ke ta de ta bu yong ho se malam jap ne tene ti ge tanda ya lam de sum je no ni lam temple le de tu pa re.
And so in this way, of the what follows this comes an overview of this, the chapter, or excuse me, a summary of the chapter on path. So we have the 3 chapters on ground, path, and result. And of these, now we have come to the summary at the end of the chapter on path. And this summary is given in the form of an aspiration prayer. And what it is a prayer that we may realize Buddha nature just as it is. And so it also says that we need to realize this as it is, and that we need to abandon any of the wrong views that there isn't any Buddha nature or that it is not correct. And so this is giving us instructions to give up any such views. And so in this way, of the 3 chapters on the ground, path, and result, we have completed the second now, the path on result, on the chapter on path. I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry.
Tene ta teji so sani dan rebu ge kap te hyujirela. Tene tarin te sam hyona tuana na ro na.
And so in that way, we will begin the discussion on result tomorrow. And we have some time for questions this afternoon if there are any.
Thank you for the teachings, Rinpoche, and also the translation as well. Yesterday, Rinpoche talked about the statement, all appearances are mind. And when I hear that, I usually think that sounds very mind-only-ish. But Rinpoche went on to say that within the context of the Vajrayana, it's very important to understand what this means. So I thought a lot about it. And I was thinking that this week, Rinpoche talked a lot about mind in different contexts in its relationship to appearance. And first, he talked a lot about the mind-only school that believes that the mind or consciousness is intrinsic, and the belief in an external phenomena is a misapprehension of what's true. And then he taught on Madhyamaka, the Madhyamaka view, which is that the mind is ultimately empty, but relatively speaking, everything arises, all consciousness arises dependent on an object, so you can't really separate subject and object in that kind of a way. So although both mind and object are empty, by virtue, I guess, of the fact that they're dependent, they still arise together. And then, in the context of the Vajrayana, he taught that mind is both empty and clear, or I guess in the Shentong point of view, it's endowed with all these qualities. And that this mind pervades everything. So that's a way of speaking about mind, kind of the mind is an essence of everything. So getting back to that statement, I just was wondering if Rinpoche can explain a little bit more about what he means when he says that all appearance is mind in the context of Shentong view.
Chitan de Simsambiki Tower and Dabo Yore, the Yinaya, Rinpoche, Sanga Doji Tepegi, Nyanso than because the toil, Pemisike, Chimpo, Yimber, Sung Ne, Tene, de Moran de Coila, Sama Mambo Tang, Tila, and Semdan, Digi Nawala, and Kande, Dewa Kande, but in a Pena, Simsamgi, Katsula, and semdi yopor kelangeres ni chirogi nawa de so chatsa and trunang rao trunama to den gosu yomare on sumbanashin yang and umapeta su Rinpoche de la and sem yang tom teni ine and kunzop hyon de chena chasa nangeres ni tendela teni and yudan yujin nigi tendela teni chasa nangeres sung ne teni the Yudan Eugenie Nyamdu Tendela Tene Shayongre Sumare. Yang and Sanga Doji Tepe because the Sem de la Sacha Yapa Yang Yana Shentong because the Sem de la Sem de la Yundan Yapar Yundan and Demba Sumare, the Sem de Tamchela Kabarabo Sumare, the Sem de Rabo, the Chatsangi Nipo Rabo Chayores. Derabina. The Shentong on the Chena, the Namatamje, sending for Shena, Digi Dunda, the test keeper Shena or none.
Tajatang Sensanton Tatanda Umayenton Panig, Tawala, Chepra Cario, Sena, Yeni, Yena, Sensan Page, Tanda, Kunzug, no one there. Semji no re. Teacher na ta chi no ata nang ta number to patinzo tomba injire. Tomba injire ti ina ti ki zawa ji me na tene tanda ta tenju tamji ke no ne pe yao yo re la. Tene nong ke meto ndo. Nong kala meto je sa yo ma re la. Nong kala meto je sa me di nong ke meto ta ni yung yo ma re. Pete yendo tanda giting korwiga no anda ni tsani yung mare teacher na tsawa ngo po chunchu ti dembar trabaji gugre sone kuyi number hibati ke ji metriwa ji dembar traba song yo are dembar traba te sung yo are ta ti sensa pataware tela sensa pala kare segere sen ngaranso toni de nawa ton ngunawa ni ye penon ngunawa segere ngupor nawa kandi ngupor nawa resena chedang chezung yurdo non zembesen parchewate de ngupor nawa marite yinaya nang kingi number hipa tawa de ngupor dendo de nawa yin becherna ngunawa se ngupor nawa la tene kyalji yigre tene tela uma jing nang la ya tene sensam patawa hipa kasala tene tege enjong deraka ngö de yongda ni dam je se tini sensam patawa di yapo re so de ge se enjang se tu enjang ta tel ta chi chi gwe je yo re tini tel ta chi chi gwe de kan de se na ku yin number hi pa te de ge ju de ngö de yongda ni dam je ta tamba la de bar tu ba ji re do ta tamba la ma du ba ji re ta chi chi gwe ba ji yo re so tini ti sensam pege ti tan tambala kelenge yorela tini ti kel tan tambala kelemba ti kyan yorele ta ti nguna sensam pare ta uma yentong pege tini chu tam chi sanje no yin bale yaji ji pala tini tanda tenju chimbu tanda tenju uma jinga no ne so yin de ge so yorela ti pe yapore no tam chi sanje no re no am je no ta pare de ge 저 대라 근거에 용다 아니던 게 오마 yen동 비티 그게 된도 킬링이요 말이 그게 된도 그거 말이 근데 오마 Uma ka parwa ge Rangtong pe ge yeba yendu la, ume ge yeba yendu la, tendir ge noa zongi. Tene tendir ge noa ge, tene nongi yore mato. Ti temper trubate, kunzu dendrup ji zane gugi yo mare. Ti ge gugi yo mare la. Tene ti la, ti ge tene teacher na, tene uma pare. Uma pala chu tong chi tong ni imba la sumba la, tene oma Rangtong pa to yen tong pa ni li chepara yo mare. Ti yina yo tong ni ti, tene pembo imba tang. Tong ni ti pembo ma imba, ngani chencha yen ting tong tenpa chege, ti ge chepara yo mare la. Chencha yen ting ti tong ni imba la ngalwa ki ron tobe yo mare. Ti la yen tang yi song tu juba sumba yo mare.
When we talk about the views of the mind only and of the Great Middle Way of the Shentong, what is the difference between the two of these? Well, in the base of it, in the mind only school, it says that in relative terms, appearances are mind. And so in that way, when we talk about the external, whether we talk about external appearances or the internal thoughts, they say that pretty much these are all emptiness. They say that pretty much everything is emptiness, but there has to be some sort of a root that all of these come out of. If there weren't some sort of a root for this all to happen, then there'd be no way to happen. And here the example that is given in all of the books is of a sky flower. In the sky, there is no place for a flower to take root and grow. And so there's no possibility for a flower to grow in the sky. And so in that way, it would just be blank nothingness. And so they say that there has to be some sort of real basis for everything to appear, because if it wouldn't, all of the different appearances of samsara would not be able to arise. And so for that reason, there has to be something that is really, truly existent. And what they say is really, truly existent is the eighth consciousness, the all-ground consciousness. And so this is like the root for all of the appearances to rise. And it has to be truly existent. If it were not truly existent, there would be no way for anything to arise, say the mind-only school. And so in general, you have two different types of philosophical schools. You can say there are those that propone that everything is emptiness, and there are those that propone that there are actual things. And of these two different types of school, then we would say that the mind-only school is one that propones that there are actual things. And so in terms of the external phenomena and the internal mind, they're pretty much saying that they're emptiness, that they don't really exist. They're not saying that those are the actual things. But what they say is the actual thing is the subtle eighth consciousness, and they say that that really exists. And so in the treatise called The Ornament of the Madhyamaka, the Madhyamaka Alankara by Shiwatsa Shantarakshita, this says, what it says is that that's good, however, we need to look at it a little bit more, to paraphrase a bit. So that's good, so that in terms of saying that all appearances are mind, that mind-only view is good, but we need to look at it a little bit more closely and see, does that all-ground consciousness really exist, or does it not really exist? And so if we look at it, then we see that that it does not, if we look at it in the actual way things are, it cannot be proven to exist. And actually, it's not necessary to say that that exists. So the mind-only school says that it has to be ultimately true, that that this root of the mind, the all-ground consciousness, has to be ultimately true. And so for that reason, they're said to propone that there are actual things. But but however, but in the Shentong view, in the Shentong view here, it says that all appearances are mind, and This, when Shantarakshita in the ornament of the middle way says, that's good, he's saying, that is good. Saying that all things are the appearances of mind, that is good. But we need to look at whether this all-ground consciousness is true. And that is not necessary. It is actually not necessarily for there to be a truly existent all-ground consciousness in order for appearances to arise. And so whether we are talking, so when we talk about this from the Rangtong perspective or in terms of the middle turning of the wheel, the Dharma, what we say is that these are just interdependent things that arise. Because of the interdependence, the appearances arise. And it's just mere interdependence. There is no need to have any real root in order for anything to arise. And so in that way, that is why the Shentong teaching is also a middle way teaching. It holds the same thing. It says, in terms of saying that all phenomena are empty, there is absolutely no distinction between the Rangtong and the Shentong view. However, where the distinction is whether or not you say that that emptiness is an inanimate emptiness or whether it has the clear aspect of knowing in it. And so here in the Shentong view, we say that it does have that clear aspect, that it is the union of the expanse and wisdom.
단다 카세 좋아지 용거래라 지단 그 생기 통지라 대어기 비닝 비잖아요 돌라 추 통지라 대어기 비닝 비잖아 돌라 드네 대어기 비닝 비칸리스 차그레스 좋아 용거래라 데데 두가요 말에 드네데 노아 생노도 땡라 마바나 데 돌라 대어기 비닝 비차고 말에 데 노아 통지 생지 노아 인도 드네 대어기 비닝 비차고 그래라 오
And so when we're talking about all phenomena being mind, the other day there was a question about saying, well, if all phenomena are mind, and if mind is pervaded by Buddha nature, permeated by Buddha nature, then do rocks have Buddha nature? How can a rock have Buddha nature? If you do not really understand that if you don't decide that all phenomena are the nature of the mind, then of course rocks could not have Buddha nature. But if you realize that all phenomena are emanations of the mind, then that is how we can say that the Buddha nature pervades the rocks.
Just one quick question about that. So Rinpoche is saying that the view is this aspect of mind, a way of speaking about mind in a more essential way.
In a more what?
You know, when you're talking about something permeating something, you're talking about mind in a very particular way, that it's like the essence of everything, which is different, I think, from, say, the relative view of the Majjhima. That's not clear? It's just clear to me.
Why don't I repeat it back to you? So what you're saying, that if the mind pervades or permeates everything else, then it's like the essence of everything. And you're saying that this is different from the middle way view that...
Well, it's just a very unique way of speaking about mind. It's different than the previous ways we were talking about it. I mean, I know in Tibetan there's many words for mind. Usually we don't think of mind as the essence of everything, except for in that particular context. And I just wanted to make sure that was what Rinpoche was talking about when he says all appearances are mind. Do you know what I mean?
I'm going to try it. So, sometimes Nama tamche semi na dila semde tamche gi nimbora semde tamche da kyaba rabo yana sometimes semde tamche gi kyaba rabo some tamche gi nimbora chayong re dene de rabo yana dene de kasko mixe gi tawa rabo chayres de ane dupta shindatan tesbin rabo rabo yong marbe. You mean it different from the different from like the middle way view or the self-empty view, or?
Jules says he understands what I'm trying to say.
The other day when Rinpoche was talking, particularly in terms of Chagye Chimbo, it sort of comes back to saying Nawa Tamje Semsu Duba, and how that applies both in Chagchen and how it's relevant to Shentong.
Nawa Tamje Semsu Duba de Chagchen da and Shentong kande royerese.
단다 노아 던지 센스도 봐 단다 뺀나가 사신 감백을라 되네 노아 샘 동바 손도 좀 못해 봤은 게 다된데 요아래 봐 대세도 되라 노아 던지 센인 발라 다 단다 뺀나 센성 바다 같이 집안다 보지라 다들 제발 가려요래서는 센성 비생 우포트 받대 덴버트 받게랭게 요래 드니 사신이 연동이게 간디샤지기게 요래서는 센동바 다디 사신이 연동이 제발 가려요래서는 드니 연동기 단다 리피터지 시비고네 되나 바바제다 사신게 무슨 센을 따니 센동바임바 무시바지 제발 다디 응성람도 제발다 예발람도 제비 제발제 레 마도 자위기 예게 따완다보티 당응성게 따왔다 예박 따왔어 그래봐 예박 따와인데 연동게 따왔대 간들에서는 예박 따와 드니 자신게 따왔대 간들에서는 응성게 따와래라 디니게 제발을 마도 따위 미율다보티 제발
So when we used some Tibetan and I didn't translate for you all, I'm sorry. In the question, when we said that, the question is basically if we propose that everything is mind, what is the difference in that between the Mahamudra and the Shentong view, or how does it work out in the Mahamudra and the Shentong view? And so here Rinpoche's answer is, when we say that we propose that all phenomena are mind, basically when we talk about it, in Mahamudra, we say that first you have to prove that appearances are mind. Then you prove that mind is emptiness. Then you prove that emptiness is spontaneously present. And so here, in saying that appearances are mind, it is basically the same as the mind-only school. So what is the difference between the two? The difference is that in the mind-only school, they say that the mind is a truly existent thing. Now, in both the Shentong school and in the teachings on Mahamudra, it is said that the mind is empty. Now, so what is the difference here between these two? Well, the main difference between the two of these is that in the Shentong view, this is proven through reasoning. And in the Mahamudra, we look at the mind directly. We look directly at it to see what it's like. And so in terms of saying that it is empty, they are saying, but the difference is whether they are taking a view of direct perception or whether they're taking a view of inference. And so really in the basic, if you look at views, basically we have two types of views. You can either take the view of direct perception or you can have the view of inference. And here the Shentong view is the view of inference, and the Mahamudra is the view of direct perception, but the aim, the purpose, or the aim of all this is the same.
I think somewhere in there I understand. I think the main thing I really was just asking is, if you say that everything is essentially empty and luminous or clear, that's what it means when you say all appearance is mind.
다티게 추탄지 마드 퍼테나 파파텔 추지 옌 세게 버바 추지 옌데 드니 살와토 똥바 송도 주바 임바타 똥바 똥중 또 샤지 기바제다 똥바데 살와예 바샤지 기바니 제바란다 보제라 드니 다티 노아탄지 생제 노아 임바티 다단다 군족 노아데 샤동데라 디게 연당 이히송도 주바생기데 단당게 내당도 보제 그단 바게라.
And so saying that all phenomena are appearances of the mind is like the mind-only view, and then when we say that that everything is the union of luminosity or clarity and emptiness, that is the particular view, a particular feature of the Shentong view. When we talk about the Dharma expanse is the fact that no phenomena can be truly established, and that is the union of clarity and insight. Now, if you say you can say that is just mere emptiness, or you can say that it has the clear wisdom aspect to it, and that there is that difference there between the Rangtong and the Shentong view. But when we say that all appearances are mind, that is talking about relative appearances. However, when we talk about the union of wisdom and the expanse, then that is talking about how things are in the ultimate nature.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you for your teachings, Rinpoche. My question is, what is the power by which the yidams and compassion arise from the Buddha nature? What induces this or causes it? What is its mechanism?
The yidam da ninja de ni leadership in nimbo de because junggi nupa de gains de top gallant and a gallant in the kyoris. Yidam da ninji the drink sugar cause the share is the yidam da ninji flat ninji
Deorhi Bimbo thing around the sentient jump to the new way about the near last mato. Languni Tani get lie number the Gesungio Mare, Dilla, Father, Ninja sinking the country Jagi or the Sena, Berna, Cassin, Urboje, Tene, Terkachembo, Rinpoche, Terkachembo, Jagatel, Kamba Tadu, Jabne, de. Then called Duman number na so by young did. I think he take the Hiuna, Aka Niki, Koran Duman Young Mare, Trinity Duman Mambunungi or a Koran Hab, Ola Terchembo, but the Hako Yoman, the courage in Jabu, some Hindi Chimbo Jagala, Niki, Hindi Chimbo Jagala. Pete Yendo, the Sentient from Jela Zayun Della, Sentient on Jindroari, Duman number not so by Yongi or a Nyonga you are the tea, do not the sun in Yonga you are married. The come they are keeping him for sentient on Jelly, you are in Yengi, Tinisong, Yengi, Goni, Zopason jumped in the Jontas, and Jes Adintella, Tini Tombi Chuch of Gorma Yapa, Rawame Bandabote, Tombi Chu Mason, Rawame Bandabote, took Ninja Chimbu Goni, Tini taken the Tanda, to talk Cheparajin down. Then that did not be Jan, then wrong. Doja the two capsula, Tini Ploma Chola, Doja Chola, Tinity, Koran Inji, Minji, Tombi Chu, the song Guba, Tombi Chu, the song, the sentient, do not let go good to get the nipe, to Inji, but the Tungi.
When we were talking about the deities, actually it was deities, not yidam deities. When the deities, it says that the Buddha nature, so when we say that the Buddha nature is a deity here, and say this is because the Buddha nature is permeates everything, and the Buddha nature has this potential to be able to protect us, to be able to help us in this way. And so for that reason, it is said to be a deity, but it's not an actual. It does not come in the actual form of a deity, it seems. And so here we talk about this deity, and then we talk about compassion. That's what we mean. But the compassion, how does the compassion arise? Well, there's an example we had the other day of this poor person who's built a hovel on top of this huge treasure and has all sorts of sufferings of poverty because he doesn't have anything, doesn't have enough food or clothing or anything. And then a clairvoyant person comes along and says, oh, the poor thing. He doesn't have to have all this suffering. He doesn't have to do it. There's this great treasure right underneath him. And if he could just unearth it, then he would be able to be happy. And so in this way, the strong compassion just naturally rises for that person. And in the same way, the Buddha naturally sees all the sentient beings. He sees the 6 different types of sentient beings and sees all the different sufferings that they suffer. And says, oh, the poor things. They don't need to suffer that. That's not necessary. They all have Buddha nature. They all have this potential. And so when the Buddha awakens to complete and perfect Buddhahood, because this compassion naturally arises, and it's as if he has no choice but to teach the Dharma. He has no power over it, and he has to teach the Dharma. He has no choice, but he has to help sentient beings. And so this compassion just arises out of that naturally. It is as a lot of the great practitioners of the past have said, when you come to realize what there is to be realized, then you look and you see all of the other students and you think, oh, they should know this too. They've got to know it too. And this great compassion naturally arises within the great wish to be able to protect them all from the suffering. And so that is this great compassion that just naturally comes up.
Thank you.
Rinpoche, we've been hearing the word Rangtong a lot, and in some contexts, I think I know what it means. In some contexts, I'm not so sure. My understanding is that there's 2 different types of Rangtong. One would have more the complete negation, maybe called Megak, and the other one might have as their ultimate view the idea of total, beyond elaboration, and that both of them might call themselves Rangtong. And sometimes, just as first part of my question, and I can ask the second part along with it, is to clarify which one is being referred to when, because it's not always clear from the things that Rinpoche is saying. In other words, that blank emptiness, which has been described, would that be more of the Megak, or that emptiness, or would it be the beyond elaboration emptiness is included in that? And the second part of my question, aside from the terminological clarification, is that in Mipam's commentary to the Madhyamaka Alamkara, the Umagyen, he says something very interesting, which I wonder if applies in this context. He says that in the context of talking about the Yogacara Svatantrika view compared to the Prasangika view, he says that the Svatantrika view is taught from the perspective of the post-meditation, the Jetop, and the Prasangika is taught from the in-meditation, or the Nyamshak point of view. And I'm wondering, since there seem to be some closeness and similarity between the Yogacara Svatantrika view and the Shentongpa, the Longchenpa view, that whether or not he could clarify whether that's a useful categorization or a way to think of it. In other words, would that also be true of the Shentong, that it is more associated with the inferential point of view in the context of the post-meditation?
Rangtong tsik te ten mambo sung ne kakala tende tikare de gidunda tes shedabo do kakala tende tes gogmendo trao kongi go gyondo chena de la ne Rangtong la ne ewa number 2 trao res de na ane kashe Rangtong ba kashe ge ane donna bene lo de mega tsam to kelang yores kashe ge de la todal ge tashi to get and share it. The Nijala and Nijala Rangtong Bimber share it. And then Besons and Dekas Rinpoche Rangtong Shena, Dekas Rangtong Shena, de Gala Musingres, the Mega and a $2 Kalen can cousin top Kakala and Sawa de Salmon do. The Yan de la the Rinpoche top of the Jian maybe Tomani Shebekas, the Mega double Gogina, Sian de Trudal Guinea, Yana Trudal de non Consudugian, the Chiche Nipa de Mipamgi, Umagengi on the Chena de la Najupe Ranjupa Dan and Karasuga and Tajupani, Shene, de Casu, Mipamgi de la Najupe. Najupe Ranjupa de Solani, Jetop Kita Davairesta, Tajupa de Nyamshaki, on to cheba shevere la. Dika certainly not to be Rangjupa dan Shentong la Dao Yimba Sonsan de Yimba Sonsan de Shentong de Derabo Samna Digres Mixegi de Shentong de Jetop gi Jeba ki Tao Dabo Yanas.
Tatela Jerdo Rangtong la Nancy Giena. Yore, Uma Rongjipa dan Uma Tanjurwa number ni yore la. Tene ti tatanda Uma Yentong to Uma Rangtong he becavina. Tene Uma Rongjipa inaya Rangtong pare. Tene Uma Tanjurwa inaya Rangtong pare. The Rangtong pa in Johnson the candidate sena Tony Zor Tengavarmato, he Zor Tengio Marella. Tene Uma Rongjipa la iena number ni yore. Uma ronji pala nanjur jepe uma patong dote jepe uma pasing ki number ni segi na si nang yor si nang yor la teni ta te la loben ledin chi ke ta te uma nganj loben chimba gomba ta te la loben ledin ji ke gomba ta te na dote jepe uma pa yin loben hiwa zo gomba ta te na nanjur jepe uma pa yin no atan ji senon ta ta yi ne long ju pa yin de ge Rangtong Tedok kasi sensang pati yapuri so ta tanda loben ledin ji gomba tardo yin dote pati yapuri kuzo zangda duting nambala hyagi yore se ta tindi ndabu ji sungi yore la tini te nyongyo lado tawa to jitu hin ji tawa tanjur pati ta uman jupa tawa ji na tanjur pati la tanjur pati nyongyo lado tawa ta tene ronji pati jisu hinji tawa yinsong yore la. Ta tela ya yechul go ondu sena, tene ta tanda mahang rong ki yeba tarji ondu sena, nang rong pe tendang, nang rong ma yin pe tendang se, ta tongi la namba yin si sene, nang rong pe tendang te yinna, uma ronji pe nang rong pe tendang tsam tena papa. Ta tene tanda uma tanjurwage nang rong ma yin pe tendang tena papa. 다 디기 녀가 라도 타와도 지서 신지 타와니 타테 바레 송하래라 다디 오마 랑통 그 타와텔라 히차치 갑술라 다딘디 체기 요래 라 디니 디 갑술라 답변 오마 진다버지나 오마 yen동 그 거디 히로 송요 말에 준생 가르리세나 오마 타롱 그 롱통 그 타와데 때나 봐봐 돈이 좋을 때 갑레 마도 이히 좋을 때 대화히 비니버드 갑 말에 la tene teacher na toni zor te pare toni zor te ba yin de la uma ronji ba yin na yo toni te be zor te pare uma tanjur ba yin na yo toni te be te ju re la yin na ya ta te la kunzu te ya ji zu la te ji che pare yo kunzu ya ji zu le che pare yo de te la nanjur je ba uma ta yen dong ba ni le che pare yo re sin che pare yo re nanjur je ba uma ba sin ki te kunzu de no ate senong yin ba tanda sensang patato kiadi bare ta di nanjur jepe oma pa toni ge ko la sa cha yemi ge che che pa yo mare la ti che no oma rong tong bare tene oma yen tong pa te khandire se na penna mo han ra bo che yen de hi nim bu tong sing king aro sing ke te da tene yen tong ke ni sing king aro sing ke ta ten de no ma tene sing tong ji la de war ki bi nim bo yu ya pa te de hi nim bu tong sing king aro go no tene ji la me long tong ne tene tanda zosong ko na troshirta 대기니에 메시던 리에처나 티리파섬 땅니 되니 생긴 땅지 지젤 대화를 보여 봐요. 되니 오마진 다버지나 코라 라히 롱동 그 따와 쪼르데 땡큐라.
The Shentong singing, Shentong singing out of the Mipan.
Shentong can singing out of the Hin Beton singing out of the
Okay, I've got a workout today. There are internal divisions within the self-empty school, and so when we talk about the divisions in the self-empty school, these are what are called in Sanskrit the Svatantrika and the Prasangika school, or the autonomous and the consequentialist schools, we can say in English. Autonomous and consequentialist schools. Now, when we talk about the Shentong and the Rangtong view, both of these are included within the Rangtong view. So the autonomist and the consequentialist schools are both included in the Rangtong view. And what is the reason that both of these are said to be Rangtong or self-empty teaching? They are said to be that because they primarily teach emptiness. And so if they primarily teach the emptiness, and therefore they are included within the Rangtong view. Now, in terms of the Rangtong, there are also, in terms of these divisions of the Svatantrikas, the autonomists, also there are a couple of different types of autonomous schools. There is the Yogacharya, the yogic action autonomous school, and there's the sutra autonomous school, the Satrandaka autonomous school. There are these two types, and of these two different types, they have slightly different opinions about how relative external and internal and external phenomena appear relatively. The master Bhaivaviveka says that the way is called a sutra autonomist or sutra school autonomist, and Shantarakshita, who composed the ornament of the Madhyamaka, is said to be a yogacharya or yogic action autonomist. And now what he says, what Shantarakshita says, is that what he says in the ornament of the Madhyamaka is that when you say that all things are the appearance of mind, that's good. But Bhavaviveka says, actually, the sutra school of saying that all things appear because of being atoms piled together, that's a good view. That's the good relative view. That's how things happen. So that is how they are different. But in terms of the actual meditative practice, they're the same. In terms of their view of the ultimate, then they are, in terms of their view of the ultimate, they are the same. Now, we also have the consequentialist school, and the consequentialist school is talked about in treatises such as the Entering the Middle Way, and in this, okay, so the consequentialist school, what Mipam Rinpoche said is that the consequentialist school is one that emphasizes is the view that emphasizes equipoise, and the autonomous school is the school that differentiates the relative. And so this is how Mipam described it. Now, Mipam also described it as being two different types of ultimate emptiness. And so these types of ultimate emptiness are called the Namdang. I'm trying to remember how they're translated commonly in English. I think they would be called something like the enumerated and the unenumerated emptiness. Is that the right ultimate truth? Is that how we say it? The enumerated and the unenumerated emptinesses. Actually, I need to start studying more Madhyamaka in English so I know the words. So the enumerated and the unenumerated ultimate truth here. And so here it is said that the autonomous school is teaching the enumerated ultimate truth, and the consequentialist school is teaching the unenumerated ultimate truth. And so, but both of these are primarily teaching the understanding that all phenomena are emptiness, but their ways of coming into it are a little bit different. So there are these separate ways of understanding it. And so then, in this way, if you look at the Rangtong, the self-empty school, closely, that is how it is. And so at this point, when we're talking about the ornament of the middle way, the Shentong view is not taught. It primarily teaches the self-empty view, and the reason it's primarily teaching that is because it is primarily teaching emptiness. It does not particularly teach about Buddha nature. It does not talk about the aspect of wisdom, but it primarily teaches about emptiness. And so, in terms of teaching about emptiness, then there are different distinctions in how the relative truth is taught, and that's how the different Rangtong schools come about. And so here, when we talk about this, what is the difference between the Yogacarya, the Yogic Action Autonomous School, and the Shentong school? Because they do seem similar, but what is the difference? Well, the difference is that in the Yogic Action Autonomous School, it does teach that all relative phenomena are appearances of the mind, but it does not teach about the aspect of clear, luminous wisdom. And so in this way, it is different from the Shentong view. And so in Mipam composed a treatise called the Lion's Roar that asserts the Shentong view. He did a couple of different treatises, and the short one here called The Lion's Roar that asserts the Shentong view. And so in this he quotes many scriptures makes many citations from the Supreme Continuum, including the one that goes, Chugi kuni chochirda, chugi chochirda.
나 디히닝 부동대 생긴가.
Dish.
디히 여기 비닝부 동ting 다디 힙도 힙바다.
And so this is the citation is one that says, because sentient beings can because we will be able to emanate Buddha bodies and so forth, we will be all beings have Buddha nature and so forth, and it gives three different reasons. And so this is looking at the Buddha nature very closely in very great detail. And so here in this way, that is a different treatise. But in the Ornament of the Middle Way, it is naturally a Rangtong text because it primarily teaches emptiness.
Just because the first part of my question seemed not to have been answered, I would repeat the part about the Megak and the Turtal, and which one he's referring to when he's saying that it teaches blank emptiness, if he's including both in that, or if there's a distinction that we need to be aware of while he's teaching the Shentong view.
다단다 메가 히바텔라 단다 남동 부탄도 세그레바 데네 뚜들 히바텔라 남동 마힘 부탄도 숨그레라 메가 히바테 단다 동보 레 당보바가 온도 세바다 데네 뚜들 히바테 남동 마힘 부탄도 데 단용가 라도 따와 데나 파데 디니까 돈이게라 데네 디추지 옌 쪼르 템바데 남긴 조딘지 동바니 손데 남동 마힘 부탄도 데 다 뚜들 데 쪼르 세바데라 뚜들 데라 드니 사차 인도 얘기 정도 좀 봐야 봤대. 오마이 겐동 베체주.
When we talk about, in Tibetan it's called a megak, and in English it's usually translated as a non-affirming negation. You could simply say a no negation, a negation saying there's no something, it's not there, no negation. So this is a negation saying there's nothing, it's not, something does not exist. So that is what we mean by a no negation. And then the other word used in the question was tridal, which means free of elaboration, so no elaborations. And so here, now Rinpoche's answer to the question is, when we talk about a no negation, then we're primarily talking about the enumerated ultimate truth. And then when we talk about freedom from elaboration, we are talking about the unenumerated ultimate truth. And so here, for beginners, you teach the no negation, and then as you get better, more advanced, then you can come to understand the freedom from elaborations of the unenumerated ultimate truth. And so that is the view that stresses the equanimity. Both of these primarily teach emptiness. They're both primarily teaching emptiness. And so when we teach the Dharma expanse as being free from emptiness, if we then also say that it is endowed with the best of all aspects, and in that way teach the clear wisdom aspect of it, then that is the feature of the Shentong view.
I'm sorry to continue, but my understanding is that it's not just the Svatantrika school that propounds the Megak, and the Svatantrikas call it the enumerated ultimate, as you said, but I may have misunderstood, but I thought that Tsongkhapa also taught Megak, but not calling it the enumerated ultimate, but calling it the ultimate ultimate. Am I incorrect in that?
Je tsompa kapagi de la mega kelang de dundam de mega de la dundam gi dundam dabo nguzimbares
tatela uma ranju pagi ina tombo tapena uma jin tabi na da da yin ni ngundo yondo to na ji pa tom to rong yin travis rong yin mete si rong yin me si teni tatela rangin hete si teni mega yaji gi yor uma jing par chawate mega jang yaji gi yor la teni jog tena la teni jiala supa me pe jiwa me yongda tena tu pa yi chu na kana de rin jiala supa me pe jiwa me la su me si teni tu ta te si song yor ma do rongji pa ge tawa so te mega yaji gi teni 마 단주로 왔다 때라 가리하지 요래서나 동분이 되네 둘들 때나 봐요 요래 라 되네 다 단다 되네 예 종합과 가리세나 따와 하지 비까서라 되네 단다 다때 결럼 지어봐 거라 되네 갈치와 땜베게도 군저 새로 하지 요래 군저 재미도 봐 군저 다 텐들 좀 많이 봐. 근저 새로 되야지 봐. 그래라. 근저 새로 되야지 이게 되라. 되니 따와 메가 너버지 운동고 요래. 다
뒤지지
If you understood that, I wouldn't have to translate it. In the autonomous school, particularly in the way it's presented in the ornament of the middle way, then at the beginning it's by saying that both self and other are free, and both self and other being free of either being single or multiple. Therefore, they have no nature. And so we say no nature. This is a no negation here. So it's primarily teaching a no negation, and most of the ornament of the middle way teaches by this no negation. It's almost all no negation. And then when we get down towards the very, very end of it, then there is this little part that says that there is, because there's no rising in anything, then it is saying that it's by saying that there's no arising and no ceasing, it is teaching that everything is free of elaboration. And so there's that small bit, but the most of it and most of the teachings of the autonomous school are teaching through this no negation. When you talk about the consequentialist school, however, it's different. And rather than using a no negation primarily, from the beginning, teaching that everything is free from elaboration. So that is the consequentialist view. Now, the view of Tsongkhapa, when we talk about the view of Tsongkhapa, when he gave his view, he considered that our relative conduct was very important. And in order to stress how important our relative conduct is, he taught the view, he made the assertion that in relative terms, things can be validly proven. So he said that in relative terms, things can be validly proven. And so when you say that everything is, in relative terms, can be validly proven, then you're not really saying that it is free from extremes anymore. And then pretty much you're ending up with a no negation.
Thank you, Rinpoche. A lot of my questions have already been answered. Do you want to break for the day, or? I was also curious about the Yogacara, the relationship between the Yogacara and the Shentong view. And I understand that you said that the luminous clarity aspect of the teachings of the Shentong are not present in the Yogacara, but I don't know so much else about Yogacara. So if it's helpful to know more, could you please say?
To picture and lenamare, yina and the Tarungdopa testures still a the Najachipeta and Shentong Tower de la Dawagans, Kepergai, Yures, Pena, the Sawa Yeshigi Chade, Najachipe Shumla, Sheomar, Sharbese.
Nanjurjip Omapa. Nanjurjip Omapata, Yentompa Ite, Kunzup Kaji Gizela, Pate, Tipandaboli, the Tandam Kaji Gizela, Nanjurjip Omapa, Chuti Yente la Sachahi, Sungioma, Tony Jamba, Kaji, or Uma Yentompe tell Sachahi, Kaji, Chepari.
In terms of the Yogacarya autonomous school and the middle way school and the Shentong view, in terms of the presentation of relative truth, they are the same, but in the presentation of the ultimate, they are different. The Yogacarya autonomous school says that does not say that the Dharma expanse has the part of wisdom. They primarily say that it is emptiness. And in the Shentong view, we say that it has the clear wisdom aspect. For that reason, the Yogacarya middle way is a Rangtong school.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Rinpoche, I have a comparative question. On the one side, the Gelug tradition. On the other side, the Kagye Nyingma tradition. And it has to do with both view and method. Would it be correct to conclude that though all three schools teach the three turnings, what the Gelugs actually conclude is that the Rangtong is a definitive and the Shentong is actually the provisional, while the Kagye and the Nyingma conclude the opposite? And the question about method, yesterday you spoke about pointing out, and when the teacher points out the mind, what he or she is pointing out is the clear aspect. So what would be the equivalent in the Gelug school? Do they have a pointing out? And if they are, what are they pointing at?
Ganden de Gilukta, Kaju Chochit and Gandingi Chuluchita, Shendate, Kaju Nima, Chasan and a Chugi color, some Kelan, Gelu, and Gelu Sula, and Rangtong guitar, the Shag Shipikas, the Kabarba, the Naden Tambures, the Rangtong, the Naden, the Shentong, the Jandan Shebare, and a Kajutan Nimani, the Lopa. Shevere, the top keeper top keeper Dabina, Sena Pena, also Kajudan Nima Lula, and singing or 9 years, singing no Trinam because of Rinpoche Sumbana Shingi, Delani, Simgi, not Saja Dilla, no 9 years. The Gandengi Lula, Derabuchi Yuna, singing or Trilla, and Dilla Gan Motogi.
조 단다 수수게 맹학 제발아 루지 힌다진 뭐지 다지다 별로 루지 힌다진 뭐지 좋아하라 디나니 다조 다르데 빠텔라 가지 사자 na gelu pati to kadampe mengo de nangi yore tene kaju pati to telo naro marba malani jibe chaja chimbo de nyamni nangi yore tene Nyingma de tanda tene zokpa chimbo ta garap tier singala soba ne jibe tene zokpa chimbo de mengo de nyamni nangi yore tene 사자게 tene brava ni tene romolo zawa ni jibe lamge mengo tenzo nyamle nang yore tati tandang us tari tel namba ya anda ko ji la saja ka ju gelu ya la ti su mengo tenzo kyali yi tong je ba tene oma yen tong ta tanda ka ju de ni ma ni kyali yi gu ba te sa신 tong zokchi ni bo de nyamle nang yin du de la tene sanji mo te nang yore tene ro gadin pelo la senji ngote di kira dangi yo mare tene kadam pala joji badin atikhani jipe lojong mengo to kunzo sonju ke sento tandang so ke sen gombe mengo tenzo zor tene gomba imbi cherna mixal ke senji tendo ngote di kira dangi yo mare la di cherna umarong tong te zo tena insare.
What's primarily happening here is that each of these lineages has their own individual instructions, and these are different instructions. And so there are the 8 chariots of the great practice lineages. And so primary among them are the Kagye, Sakya, Nyingma, and Gelug traditions. And so in the Gelugpa tradition, they primarily teach the instructions from the Kadampa tradition. And in the Kagye tradition, we primarily practice the Mahamudra that is passed down from Dolpopa and so forth. And in the Nyingma tradition, the primary practice is the Dzogchen that comes from Garab Dorje and all the other masters. And so we receive the instructions on Dzogchen from them. And so the Sakya, there are the instructions that come from the master Virupa and that were then translated by Drokmi Lotsao and then passed down. And these are the 4 main extant lineages that have spread here. And so here we have these 4 main lineages, the Nyingma, Sakya, Kagye, and Gelugpa tradition. And they each have their own particular oral instructions. When we talk about the Shentong instructions, here when we're doing the Mahamudra or the Dzogchen practice, that is the context in which we have the introduction of the nature of the mind in the Kagye and the Nyingma context. But in the Gelugpa tradition, there is not a tradition of giving introductions to the nature of the mind. Primarily practice the Kadampa instructions on mind training. They train in relative and ultimate bodhicitta, and that is their primary practice. And so since that is the primary way that they practice, they do not particularly give introductions to the nature of the mind. And so that is probably why they primarily teach the Rangtong view.
Tene ta tela chitang ke chulu chimbo yerna bo yer yore te inaya te kan de ma to zo kahi ne gelupa ni kajupa la jipa kajupa jipa te pa chu de ne tene je 혈의 파츠 리 머롱아 tene soso ri de panda potende ya yo mar lama kahi lama yenda te lama kajupa lama kahi sachi lama te tene gelupa lama kahi nime lama te ta tende lama te pa츠 de yo ara.
And so that's pretty much how the 4 different traditions are, but we have to understand that they're not completely separate. There are a lot of Gelugpas who follow Kagye teachings, and Kagyepas who follow Gelugpa teachings, and Sakyapas who follow Nyingmas, and Nyingmas who follow Sakya traditions. And so there's a lot of interaction, a lot of back and forth among all of the different lineages. It's not as if they're separate instructions that are unable to be, or that are irreconcilable in any way. They aren't like different types of things, but rather there's a lot of back and forth between the different instructions. So many Kagye lamas will take teachings from Sakya masters, and Gelugpas will take teachings from Nyingma masters, and so that's how it is. The instructions are all like that.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
point of clarification, please, about Rangtong Dorje's teachings about the seventh level of mind. There's the afflictive emotions and another level of immediate mind. Purification of immediate mind goes to mirror wisdom. What happens to the afflictive emotions?
Dila ane rondo di namshi shijepa dila ane tes komason dila ane namshi tsok tumba dila nyui ta ane demata ni yupegi na ane demata de nature because de melong tabu yeshi chayong yures tene nyui de gala gani Nyambani. So here the seventh consciousness has the afflicted mind and the immediate mind. The afflicted mind, not the afflicted emotions, the afflicted mind becomes the wisdom of equality. Wisdom of equality.
What I wrote down in my notes was that the immediate mind becomes mirror-like wisdom. Is that not correct? I'm hearing something different today.
So the immediate mind becomes the mirror-like wisdom. The afflicted mind becomes the wisdom of equality.
Thank you.